Most of you sitting through the city with an inch and a quarter of rain.
Inch and a quarter?
Inch and a quarter. That was the rainfall total for the park. Walk over to the wall. We'll show you what it looks like. This shot showing you lower Manhattan, and everything is actually in pretty good shape now as we work into clear, bright, sunny skies. 65 degrees at 7 o'clock in the morning, and sunny and pleasant for the rest of the day. 80 degrees. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, as beautiful as this weather's going to be. The 5-day, yeah, look at this. 78 degrees on Wednesday. Thursday, I think I'm even overdone with the clouds there. I think it turns out to be a little bit nicer. Friday, very nice. Saturday, beautiful, cool, pleasant days.
The day before 9/11, it was a regular work day. Everything was normal in New York City.
I was still working in a different place, doing sales, telephone sales in Lower Manhattan. So I believe I was there. I just don't remember what day it fell on, Monday, Tuesday. I couldn't tell you that part.
So I was fixating actually on my ex-wife's birthday, and by coincidence, in what might be considered stereotype, typical last-minute guy fashion, went running for birthday gifts, and I was shopping actually in the shopping area in the bottom of one of the towers where they have all of the brand name stores.
So I picked up an overtime shift. As I got home in the morning to my house, I went to bed, I was exhausted. My mother-in-law bust open the door and said, "Hey, a plane just hit the World Trade Center." I turned on TV, we didn't know what was going on, and then I saw live as they were broadcasting the news, the second plane hit the second tower. And then, of course, it broke that we were being attacked. It broke out that, and it was eerie. It was an eerie feeling, so.
I was on the R train, getting off at Rector Street, because that's the general area where I would work. And I was one of the first people off the train, so I was heading towards the staircase to walk up to the sidewalk. Before I got there, some lady was screaming, running down the stairs, and kind of collapsed to the sidewalk area, the platform. And other people, I was running late, so I was in a rush, but I noticed what was going on. But people behind me took attention to help her out, so I didn't feel like I was the only person there to abandon somebody. So I just went up the stairs. When I got to the top of the stairs, the avenue, the street was filled with people running, almost like a migration of wildebeest, like in nature films, like a weird scene. Everybody running in one direction. I went in the opposite direction. Where I work was in the other way, so not knowing it, of course, I'm heading towards a problem, not realizing there is one. A secondary boss showed up a few minutes later and asked us why are we still here. So we didn't know, people in the room didn't understand what you're talking about. So he led us to an area where there was a window, and you could see a view of the Twin Towers. The angle was one behind the other, basically, so it looked like one tower. And that tower, the top third was carbon black with smoke coming out. It was like a toast, burnt toast. Weird looking thing, nobody knew the reason for it. And we were able to get out of there. When we got out of there, everything was brown dust, and people running by looked like clowns, but not with makeup, but I guess a brown tint because of the stuff in the air. So a couple of people are freaking out. I'm realizing from where we are, the safest place to get out of there, because everything stopped. The traffic wasn't moving. People were yelling, the trains don't work. And I said, we can't just stand here, because for all intents and purposes, it looked like it could have been a military invasion. Like possibly missiles came down, something happened. Nobody knew the situation. So I based the best I could, the parameters of where we were. I said the closest way out of here would be to get to the Brooklyn Bridge, because we were near the East River. We had to use our ties to cover our noses because nobody had face masks in those times. And we made it up to the top of the walkway, and as we're going through the first third of the bridge, because it's a pretty long stretch of land, I hear a sound behind me. And it sounded like something out of a Godzilla movie, one of these dinosaur movies from the 50s. Screech, like a scream, but like a huge, like a monster sound, which didn't make sense. You're out in the street, how the fuck can you hear this? I turned around and I'm realizing the second tower at that point was twisting and coming in on itself. And it just looked so surreal. There's no way of expecting this. So I'm realizing as it's collapsing, it's letting out a giant carpet of brown smoke that's swallowing up the neighboring area. Even though it's far away from us, it looked like it could reach where we are. So I said, I'm not going to stand here waiting for this shit to be breathing this crap in. So I do like OJ at the time, and I make a run up the bridge. Well, the best I could do, because I'm running around people, because everyone's standing there holding hands, crying, taking pictures. I'm saying to myself, this is not the time to take pictures, because if this is part of something military-wise, they might bomb out the bridge. Number one, I don't swim. Number two, I'm on top of a bridge 100 feet off the river. I'm not lucky if I survive the fall. I'm not going to be able to swim because I don't know how to swim.
Yeah, the next day our shop steward had called me as soon as I got in the house, said that the fire department had called our union and requested iron workers to come help with the rescue because they thought there were people alive in the rubble.
Can you describe the scene that you saw?
It was complete mayhem. Everybody was in shock. There wasn't a lot of organization in the beginning. We were brought in through the military checkpoints and sent to work with a group of about 100 firemen to start searching and digging, and it was all steel laying on top, so they couldn't search until we removed the steel from the sites. They were very, very thorough. There were no surviving people. Then it just became a cleanup operation, more or less. But they were very thorough. We would remove the steel, and they would come on their hands and knees in that foot of gray muck and pick through with their hands, and anything they found, they documented, and very respectful, but very sad. Very sad. The first piece of steel I cut, there was a woman under it. The fire chief immediately ran over, asked if I was okay. We were okay. Personally, it made me angry. This poor woman had walked down the sidewalk and lost her life for no reason. What I really hope people don't forget is that right after that happened, all of New York came together. New York is not typically known as a people-friendly place, but it was. When I walked out of there, I needed to go to the Port Authority. They escorted me to a military vehicle. They lined up, saluted me, picked me up, put me in the back of the vehicle, drove me right up to the bus. Bus driver wouldn't take my bus ticket. People were running from the stores and giving me water. Everybody came together. And it sounds a little crazy, but it brought people together. And that's what I'd like people to remember. With all this me first stuff, it wasn't like that. I've been lucky. I have a little COPD, but I haven't come down with any of the awful things everyone else has, because they've explained it to us that nobody has ever been exposed to this kind of materials and things that we were exposed to. But listen, you can't worry about that. You know, when you get called to help, you help. And so I don't worry about that. Just, I thank God that I'm still okay, and I did what I had to do, and I wouldn't change that.
You would do it again?
Yes. Yeah, you can't always take. Sometimes you have to give. And that day we gave.
So I was about to come across the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which feeds right into the lower Manhattan or downtown Manhattan area. First tower gets hit, second tower gets hit. I am out of my vehicle parked, working with uniform NYPD to safely evacuate everyone who's now in the tunnel, getting the keys to all the automobile or the vehicles in there, and trying to just get updated information in terms of what actually is happening. While still on the Brooklyn side, the towers go down, and ultimately I make my way through the Battery Tunnel on an EMS truck, and that's how I managed to get onto scene for the first time, and that was again after the second tower went down. It seemed like it was one of those sort of futuristic movies where the planet is destroyed due to man's profound intellect and lovey-dovey feeling towards one another, and you sort of walked around and somehow wandered onto the scene or the set of this futuristic movie, this zombie apocalypse. I don't know if that's necessarily a generational difference between life now versus then. We weren't in sort of black and white television per se. The businesses looked the same. The movement of the crowd, the density of New York City was very similar to what it is today. So one of the things that was a challenge on 9/11 was communication. And the communication, we were limited to what the current generation would laugh at as grandpa's or grandma's flip phone. That's what I was using. After the attacks, we had one of our command posts set up on West Street, and I would routinely have to drive from my office, which was the U.S. Attorney's office downtown, up to 26th Street on the West Street. And during these rides back and forth, transferring evidence, transferring people, variety of reasons, we would see regular civilians out there holding up signs, cheering, saying thank you for what you did, thank you for what you're doing, thank you for keeping us safe. And no first responder gets up every day and goes to work with an expectation of a cheering squad, but seeing that level, that positive energy, was very uplifting and invigorating. On 9/11, the terrorists were all dead. So 9/11, the bad guys died, but the attack didn't end. So subsequent to 9/11, all of the first responders and civilians who lived south of Canal Street, who had sustained exposure to the toxins in the air, have unfortunately been stricken with these terminal forms of cancer. And you're sort of wrestling with these horrible medical outcomes that are occurring years later. It started maybe 10 years ago and it continues. And we're losing people who otherwise would not have died from these horrible diseases, but the impact continues and it's immeasurable. You can't even reconcile the harm and damage that has been done and continues to be done. And all you can do is keep the faith and pray that those with it will survive, and then those who haven't gotten it yet will somehow make it through their lives, myself included. It's always in the back of your mind in terms of your health and your wellness. And we've already lost, more people have died from the toxin exposure than had died on 9/11. In the law enforcement world, we've lost 386 law enforcement officers from the toxin exposure. On 9/11, we lost 72.
Yeah, sure. My name is Gary Ford. I'm a member of the FDNY. I was assigned to Brooklyn Engine Company 309, and I've been retired for almost 6 years now. I worked for 24 years as a firefighter. 20 years ago, I was off duty from my Brooklyn firehouse, and I was working my second job on Long Island where I live. And when the second plane hit the tower, there was a recall, and I left my second job and went to my firehouse in Brooklyn, got my gear, and was shipped in here on a city bus, and we got here just as the second tower fell. We were in a staging area just north of the Twin Towers, and we were waiting for number 7 World Trade Center to collapse because it was fully engulfed in fire from the floor through the roof, and they would not let us go down and start our rescue operation until that building came down. It was too dangerous. A lot of people feel it's like reliving it all over again with each passing year. It kind of just takes you back, and it does. It does. It's a wound that really doesn't fully heal, but I believe it's important to be here, to do something special that day, even if it was just, go to your local church or spend time in a park alone thinking, do something in remembrance. Yeah, I think that's very important and helpful. It's unfortunately, they tried to take the buildings down in 1993, and that should have put a lot of people on their toes, and perhaps it didn't have to happen in 2001. But in 1993, I was on duty that day. I was in my firehouse in Brooklyn. We were not sent to the Trade Center, but we got relocated to the other side of Brooklyn, and you could hear the communications all day long on the radio, what was happening, and it was a massive attack. They really tried to take down the buildings that day, and again, maybe it shouldn't have happened in 2001, You know, they should have really been watching. And you know, nothing's perfect, I understand, but that was a wake-up call in 1993. Yeah, people died on that day. A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people suffered. Tragic day also, 93.
Hi, my name is Gideon Nodé. I'm a filmmaker. Well, my brother and I, along with a firefighter friend, were doing a documentary on a young rookie firefighter who had just arrived in this firehouse on Duane Street, one of the oldest firehouses in New York. And we started, I think, in June 2001. And the goal was to follow a young kid and during his first 9 months on the job. On the morning, around 8 a.m., there was an alarm, a gas leak on Church and Espiritu. My brother went there with Chief Pfeiffer, the battalion chief of downtown, along with the engine truck and the engine and the truck. I stayed here because my job was to follow the young probie, the young rookie, Tony. My brother, being with the firefighters on the street, heard this loud noise and looked up and saw the American airline flight passing by very low. And just turned his camera and recorded the plane literally crashing into the North Tower. And then they just all went into the truck, engine and fire chief car and were about the first firefighters to get inside the North Tower. And meanwhile, I was alone in the firehouse here with a rookie firefighter, and we were watching on TV what was happening. It was just insane. Well, it's what Alfred Hitchcock said about documentaries versus a movie. You know, on a movie, the director is like a god. You know, he basically decides if he wants to have an elephant coming out of underneath a table. He just calls special effects, and that's it. But on a documentary, I think the real director is God, if you believe in God. You never know what's going to happen. All you can do is press record, and that's it. You just have to go along with the story. We knew that right away that what we had filmed were unique in that sense that no other cameraman or camera woman had been in the World Trade Center, and so we were the only one with this record, with this history, this footage, and so we knew that we didn't want the footage to be out there and to have every kid who had lost a parent to watch it constantly on TV. So we kept the footage, let's say, safe. You know, people could only see it in the documentary, and that was it. It was a responsibility that we thought was a duty. But we didn't want basically, the kids of the firefighters who had lost their lives to switch on the TV and constantly see their dad or their brother or their mother or their wives. It's really what happened on the afternoon of September 11. One firefighter came to my brother and told him, look, in the morning you had one brother. Today, this afternoon, after what happened, you have 50 brothers. And it has been true for the past 20 years. You can't help but thinking that people will just remember 9/11 like they remember Pearl Harbor, for example, or some scenes from Second World War, First World War. This footage in black and white where you're thinking it happened so long ago and you don't feel any connection. Hopefully, with the documentary that my brother and I filmed, because of the way we filmed it, where there is this intimacy with the firefighters from this firehouse, the kind of minute by minute, hopefully they get a feel that you know, there is something that never gets old, which is the sense of self-sacrifice, the sense of brotherhood, and hopefully, you know, again remembering that the worst of time, the best of humanity always shines, and hopefully this optimistic human message never get old. That's the idea.
Any fool can blow something up. Any fool can destroy. But to see these guys, these firefighters, these policemen, and people from all over the country, literally with buckets, rebuilding, that's extraordinary. And that's why we've already won. They can't, it's light. It's democracy. We've already won. They can't shut that down. They live in chaos. And chaos, it can't sustain itself. It never could. It's too easy and it's too unsatisfying. The view from my apartment was the World Trade Center. And now it's gone. And they attacked it. This symbol of American ingenuity and strength and labor and imagination and commerce, and it is gone. But you know what the view is now? The Statue of Liberty. The view from the south of Manhattan is now the Statue of Liberty. You can't beat that.